we're ready to get started. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Disability Book Series featuring Alice Wong today. Thank you all for being here. My name's Peter. I am an SDA staffer and one of the book series team members, and help coordinate the series. I've got a couple things I'd like to cover before we jump in, before we kick off the actual content here. First off, just a little note so that everyone can have a visual image. I am a white bearded guy with some light brown hair. Well, maybe it's dark brown right now. In my room with a white wall background and a little bit of art on the walls. Nothing too special, but that's what we got. That's what we're seeing. And yes, I love that we're starting to see some comments in the chat, people saying where they're checking in from. Thank you all for doing that. And what I'm going to do is just cover some of the technical notes here. If you saw the chat, I just popped a bunch of useful information in there, including the captioning link. So we've got two options for captioning today. You can use the in-zoom option, which you can access through your toolbar, or you can use the OneCap app link. I'll be repasting all these useful shortcuts periodically, and you can feel free to message me, Peter, SDA, he/him in the chat, if you need anything or anything comes up. A couple useful shortcuts for folks. Alt plus V is starting and stopping your video. Alt plus A is muting and unmuting your audio. Alt plus Y is raising and lowering your hand. If you're on the phone, useful codes for you are *6, which is mute and unmute, and *9, which is raise your hand, which might come in useful during that Q&A session, which we'll be having a little later on. So I mentioned those stop video, start video keyboard shortcuts because we are recording today, and we're actually also going live on Facebook. Very exciting. So if you don't want to be recorded or you don't want to be streamed, the stream won't show your name, but it will show your video if it's on. If you don't mind, keep it on. If you do mind, go ahead and switch it off now. Right now, we are currently just spotlighting Alice and Lucy, one of our interpreters. So for interpretation for ASL, we will be switching periodically between Lucy and Norma. I'll be spotlighting them, alternating, but they'll also pop a message in the chat so that everyone knows that the switch is about to occur. Very exciting new Zoom feature that we can spotlight multiple people. Goodness gracious, very good times. Best news in some time. If you have questions for Alice, you can feel free to send them to me or Kristen in the chat, and hopefully we'll get a chance to get to them. All right, I think those are all my notes. I'm just double checking, and I'm gonna go ahead and head it over to other member of the coordinating team, SDA member extraordinaire, Kate Mancuso. Take it away, Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm a non-binary person wearing a blue dress, and I have blue hair, and my background is Oakland on a much sunnier, nicer day than today. I live in Oakland, California, and I've been a disability activist for many years and active with SDA for about 2 years. I joined SDA because we are an organization built around the values of anti-ageism and disability justice. And we strive to put those values into action by doing mostly local activism around issues that include housing justice, care rationing, migration justice, and economic justice as they affect folks who experience anti-ageism and ableism. Um, that's a lot of words to say that we're focused on really creating stability in the lives of folks who sometimes don't start out with very much, um, by helping folks get stable housing, helping folks get stable food, so that folks can organize together and get to um, a better political point. So this is political education, which is relatively high up our, um, you know, our hierarchy of work, and I personally in SDA do a lot of this kind of education and outreach online. I've worked with care rationing folks to do outreach online. I've worked with the Disability Justice League, which is a group that makes protests accessible to disabled folks. And I've worked on hiring interpreters and doing Zoom streaming of protests for increased access. And the reason that SDA feels important to me and why I'm a member is that we're working together towards justice. And this is an organization where you can come in and work together with folks on projects that are already happening and kind of decide the direction of your own project. Membership is really simple. You fill out a form and pay a fee, and then we invite you to an orientation. And we're excited to have new members from this. So if you're interested in being a member, please get in touch with SDA. Um, and now I'm going to hand it off to Jessica, who's going to introduce Alice.
Thank you so much, Kate. Let me just switch us here. Okay, getting used to some new Zoom functions here. So my name is Jessica Lehman. I'm with Senior and Disability Action. I am a white woman with ever longer brown hair since the pandemic. It's about shoulder length now. And I'm wearing a kind of olive green dress with no sleeves. So I have the pleasure of introducing Alice Wong today. You know, this book reading series started because it was about a year ago, I think. Alice can correct me if I'm getting the timing wrong. And Alice had just published Hope and Resistance, or maybe that was a little bit earlier, but it was an anthology that she worked on, and a couple other disabled friends had published books, and I reached out to them all and said, oh my gosh, we have this amazing wealth of disabled folks writing about disability in the Bay Area, and how can we share that with the community? And Alice said, wait, because I have a book coming out this summer. And so finally we are here to talk about her incredible book. So Alice and I have known each other for a while. She is a disabled activist, media maker, and consultant. She is incredibly well respected in the disability community, and is very humble about it, of course. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that I want to point out. You know, Alice, of course, has a disability herself and is not afraid to talk about it, right? Really draws from her personal experiences, whether it's with using in-home supportive services, or dealing with ableism, or dealing with family issues, thinking about interdependence, or addressing fears around the coronavirus. And more than just about anyone I've seen, I think Alice does this incredible job of drawing out her personal experiences and sharing that with the broader community and the public to talk about what these issues mean and what we need to be doing as a community. And that she really focuses on amplifying the voices of marginalized people, right? That she talks about being a disabled woman of color herself, and has really created these platforms to share stories from disabled people who are also Black, Indigenous people of color, who are queer, who are transgender, who have a lot of other identities that don't always get talked about. And so partly she did that a few years ago by coordinating with StoryCorps, the NPR project, to get people's stories archived so that now these stories of incredible people just living their lives are recorded and can be shared. So Alice founded and directs the Disability Visibility Project, which is an online community dedicated to creating, sharing, and amplifying disability media and culture. And Alice started it in 2014. And of course, what brings us here today is that she is the editor of Disability Visibility. Let me grab my copy here so I can show it off at the same time. This wonderful new book. This is a paperback that has this beautiful background of some kind of abstract shapes in bright pink, purple, blue, green, and yellow, which, you know, we can ask Alice more about where this cover came from, but to me, it's the boldness of let's get our stories out there. Let's make it bright. Let's make it loud. We want and need to be heard. And the title is Disability Visibility, First Person Stories from the 21st Century. It's an anthology of essays by disabled people from Vintage Books. It was published this year, 2020. And we'll tell you how to get a copy if you don't have one yet. And I can't remember if Peter announced that we will be raffling off a copy to one lucky participant here today. And Alice is very active on Twitter and does Twitter chats about voting, about the census, about all the issues that are so important in disability communities. So if you're on Twitter or want to get on Twitter, please follow her at SF Direwolf, and we'll put that in the chat as well. And on that note, I'm delighted to turn it over to Alice to get us started.
Wow, what a nice introduction. Thank you, Jessica. I do feel very lucky that we have worked together and through you know, to be conspirators and lots of things locally in San Francisco, and sat through many meetings together and had lots of good times. And, you know, I'm very proud to be connected with you and a supporter of SDA. And, you know, I want to thank everybody at SDA for inviting me and putting together this event. You know, just like any sort of in-person event, online events take a lot of work. And, you know, it takes a village of two people to organize and to make sure all the logistics and everything works. So much appreciation to everybody at SDA for creating the series and inviting me. So as Jessica mentioned, you know, I kind of just a little bit of everything, you know, storyteller, writer, activist, consultant, and, you know, this has been a really weird year, I think, for all of us in the disability community, but just, you know, just a weird year personally for me to be under such a weird, scary, bleak time, and yet to have this book out, which is, you know, sometimes people will say, this is not a good time to have a book out. But I think for me, what I've seen is really gratifying is the response to this book. You know, I feel like it's given people some joy, some comfort. And I think that's something that we can all use right now. So whether you have the book now or you want to read it at the library or just access it in different ways, you know, I hope that you do get a chance to do that. Although there's no expectation as well. Just to describe myself for accessibility, I'm an Asian American disabled woman. I have short black hair. I'm wearing a red hoodie because Comfort is the key word right now. Be comfortable and just, try to get through every day. And I'm just delighted to be spending my weekend with you all talking about this book because it's been a week, right? It has been a week. So this is a highlight for me. So to mention, I'm wearing a red hoodie. There's a mask over my nose attached to a tube, which is connected to a ventilator. And my background is all black. So just before we jump into like a conversation and to answer questions by all of you, I thought it might be nice to read a small part of my introduction. So, this is an anthology featuring work by 37 disabled people across all kinds of fields and all kinds of backgrounds, really highlighting different kind of topics and issues. So this introduction was really my way of sharing my own story, but also kind of a manifesto of sorts. So I'm just going to read like the last third of the introduction. So here we go, and then I will jump into a conversation. Okay. Disability visibility is not Disability 101 or a definitive best of list. You may be unfamiliar with some terms or uncomfortable with some ideas presented in this book, and that's a good thing. These stories do not seek to explain the meaning of disability or to inspire or elicit empathy. Rather, they show disabled people simply being, in our own words, by our own accounts. Disability visibility is also one part of a larger arc in my own story as a human being. Since the essays cover a broad span of topics, the book is divided into 4 sections: being, belonging, doing, and connecting. You will find content notes at the beginning of some stories that discuss topics that may be traumatic or distressing, and you decide whether to engage with the material or not. Content notes are included as a form of access and self-protection, giving you information on what to expect before reading. The first piece is by the late lawyer and activist Harriet McBride Johnson in a piece called Unspeakable Conversations, originally published in the New York Times in 2003. Harriet writes about debating a Princeton professor who believed that people like her should not exist, that infanticide of disabled people was acceptable and ethical. When I first read her account, it shook me to my core. She brilliantly outlined the lived experience of ableism in very real terms. I no longer felt alone in questioning and defending my worth. Her words and the way she lived her life continue to influence me every day. The last essay here is by S.E. Smith, titled The Beauty of Spaces Created for and by Disabled People, from Catapult in 2008. S.E. shares their experience attending a performance of Descent by Kinetic Light, featuring disabled dancers, choreographers, Alice Shepard, who has an essay here as well, and Laurel Lawson. Essie describes the transient alchemy that happens when disabled people come together in the same space. Essie's writing leaves us steeped in the beauty, creativity, the ingenuity of disabled people. The disability visibility creates a similar literary space, a collection of individual stories that becomes something entirely unique as a whole. And the conversation continues beyond the last page, since it is impossible to capture the full expanse of the disability experience in one single book. At the back is a list of suggested readings and resources. This may feel true for every era, but I believe I'm living in a time where disabled people are more visible than ever before. And yet, while representation is exciting and important, it is not enough. I want and expect more. We all should expect more. We all deserve more. There must be depth, range, and nuance to disability representation in media. This is the current challenge and opportunity for the publishing industry and popular culture at large. There are not enough self-identified, disabled, deaf, chronically ill, and neurodivergent people in publishing. In 2019, the Lee and Loeb Books Diversity Baseline Survey of the industry found 11% of respondents identify as a person with a disability and 89% identify as non-disabled. The highest disparity across their 4 measures, including race and ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, and disability. This directly impacts what gets published, who gets published, and industry assumptions of what disabled and non-disabled readers are hungry for. I asked non-disabled publishers and media makers to reflect critically on the demographics of their professions, what they produce, and who they cater. Who and what is missing? How do we hold ourselves accountable? How can we advance conversations about diversity and inclusion and back them with actions, policies, and practices? How can we get to that place together by collaborating and learning from one another? To the non-disabled readers of this book, how many disabled creators do you know of? How can you support their work? Whether it's a podcast, a novel, play, video, or blog. How are you widening your horizons? Because I believe in the power of the universe, I'm going to call into existence the formation of a disability-centered imprint by one of the big 5 publishers, led by disabled editors. It won't magically fix the systemic issues about diversity in publishing, but it's a start. It is damn overdue. Disabled people have always existed, whether the word disability is used or not. To me, disability is not a monolith, nor is it a clear-cut binary of disabled and non-disabled. Disability is mutable and ever-evolving. Disability is both apparent and non-apparent. Disability is pain, struggle, brilliance, abundance, and joy. Disability is sociopolitical cultural, and biological. Being visible and claiming a disabled identity brings risks as much as it brings pride. As a marginalized person, I don't feel it's enough to just you say, hey, pay attention to us. We're here, we exist. We're just as human as you. I want things to improve, even while grappling with this impulse, with the tension between subject and audience. I want to center the wisdom of disabled people and welcome others in, rather than ask for permission or acknowledgement. Harriet McBride Johnson wrote that storytelling is an activity, a shared experience, not an object. Collectively, through our stories, our connections, and our actions, disabled people will continue to confront and transform the status quo. That's who we are. So that's it for the introduction.
Amazing. Thank you, Alice. So just so folks on the call know, we are going to move into the question and answer portion of this event. So if you would like to ask Alice any questions, you can put those in the chat to either Peter or myself, and we will try to get to as many as we can. My name is Kristen. I'm an SDA member, and my pronouns are they and them. I'm a white non-binary person. I'm wearing a gray long sleeve shirt. I've got a black hat on, wearing glasses. They're tortoiseshell, kind of round. And in my background, mostly white walls. There is a print of Arts Cafe in San Francisco in the background. Best cafe that's no longer around. All right.
I'm very sad because those were the best hash browns ever.
Oh gosh, yeah. For anyone who hasn't heard of Arts Cafe, it was a hole in the wall. There was a counter. You were sat closely next to people you didn't know. It didn't matter. You were there for the hash browns and for the coffee and just to hang out with the loveliest family ever. Just a beautiful place. Very, very sad.
Rest in peace. Rest
Yes.
in peace. Okay.
Great. So thank you for reading through that. That's a great framing for some of the questions that we have. You know, your book is really about celebrating the disability community and getting readers to question their assumptions and understandings. So I was curious if you could speak to why the creation of media by and for the disability community is so important. I think you spoke to it a little bit. Maybe that's a big question to get through, but.
Hey, why not? And I'm really excited to be in conversation with you. And clearly, we have similar food tastes already. We are, I feel the connection already. So, I feel like as somebody who is 46, which is ancient as a minute, I grew up with just really poor, subpar, representation. I mean, going to the library as a kid, did I ever read books by disabled authors who are, in kid lit or, young adult lit? I don't think so. I don't even recall, super popular characters that are disabled. I think once in a while there may have been a after school special, or a very special episode where it features, a disabled character. most likely paid by non-disabled people. So this has been very much kind of the standard. And, I didn't know there was more. And I didn't know to expect more, right? I think that's what's so insidious. And, there's such a void. And I think people don't know it until they realize there's more out there or that we can expect more. And I think this is, even in the last 30 years, it's been a slow improvement. Clearly, we're more advanced now in terms of having a far more diverse range of disability representation, but we're nowhere, I don't think we're nowhere close parity, but especially, let's say, in like the news media, so much of the framing around stories and reporting about disability issues is overwhelmingly through a non-disabled lens. And very oftentimes featuring experts or family members or advocates who are not disabled, rather than really centering it on actual disabled people. And also we have a history of the helping professions and other advocates being our representatives. And I'm really grateful for the movements, like such as the self-advocacy movements, so many different disability justice and disability rights movements, and really kind of, creating our own spaces and asserting our autonomy. But I feel like we still have to say like the thing about us without us, which is something I would really love to like one day, like let's not, that should be just the bar, like the very lowest bar. But yet here we are still having to say this. So this is kind of my effort, along with so many other people, just constantly recentering and reasserting our space.
Yeah.
If that answered your question.
No, that was great. Yeah, I think that personally for me, I didn't read anything, by folks in the community until I got into the world of zines. And people were making zines about their experiences, and I bought as many as I could, read them all, and it really changed my world to be able to read stuff from folks in the community, not, like you said, from experts who are not disabled. And I think that your book, the anthology, is so exciting because I see it as one way to add to the archive of the community and our histories. And I'm curious, what role do you see the book in archiving histories, or and why does that matter? I think you've spoken to this a bit, but how does creating this archive help maybe folks 30 years from now?
Yeah, I think it's all about the future. It's all about adding to this body of work that's already existed. I want to be sure that people know that this is not like some sort of singular new thing. It just adds upon the work of so many people in the last few decades, centuries. So, there's a lot of other anthologies that's, feature disabled and deaf people. And, there's just a lot out there. But I think, the thing that's probably unique about it is, that it's about this particular time. So, the whole idea is the subtitle of the book, First Person Stories for the 21st Century. These are stories that are from the year 2000 to 2019. And that to me was really important because, let's capture this moment. It's a snapshot. It's not, again, as I mentioned in the introduction, it's that was supposed to be encyclopedic. It doesn't care. It does not attempt to, there's no checkbox on like every type of disability, because that's impossible. But to me, that's the role of being an editor and curating things, is that this is my particular point of view in terms of selecting work that I think are important to this time, and the people that I feel more people should know about. And that is leveraging the privilege of being an editor. And it's basically picking up Spotify playlist, like a mixtape. Like, this is my Valentine to you, This is the best of the best in my mind. And, you don't have to love it, but hopefully there's something for everyone. It's not meant to be this, this thing to, I don't know, it's not supposed to, like, I guess my personal goal is, does it please me? Yes, it does. Does it make me happy? Yes, it does. Now, I put it out there not knowing what to expect, because this is a very particular view. But I think that you want something with a particular view, that something that's incredibly watered down, generic, vanilla, that would be pleasing to all audiences. Because that to me is boring. Like, that's like, somebody can whip something up like that just very easily. I think the challenge is working within these structures, right? Like, I can only fit, based on word count, about 37 essays. And I'm like, this was really a wonderful exercise, I think, for me, because I really had to distill it down. And I'm really just proud of just the huge range. And I think very much for anyone who gets a chance to look at the table of contents, they can tell what I value personally in terms of, I think, the intentions. My intention is behind the book, which is really to put a spotlight on very much, I feel this word is so overused, but it's really true that it is through this very intersectional approach that disabled people exist across so many multiple communities, and that it's not just about the experience of ableism, but it's truly intertwined with racism, anti-blackness, white supremacy, homophobia, just, all of it. So I think that's what I wanted to do, is really share a far more complex and rich portrait. And I think my hope is, as Kate mentioned at the beginning comments, talking about political education, I mean, this is pretty much sneakily, political education, right? This is about anti-ableism, basically, without calling it anti-ableism. And that's the hope, that people just read this, their minds are blown. Maybe their minds are blown. Maybe it's like, oh, like, I never thought about it this way. Why don't I want to learn more? And I really want this to be a springboard for further self-education, reflection, discussion, questioning. I really want this, especially if this is the first time somebody's read a collection like this, for it really to be the start and not the end.
Yeah, I think I find it really exciting as a reader to know that I can look at these 37 pieces, I can read them, and at the same time, I can kind of get a sense into your mind and the way that you pick these. And you know, I really like that personal touch to the anthology, that you get to know the person who edited the anthology, because you were very intentional about what you chose, and I love that you said that, you know, this is a book you could give to someone who might not have read anything around disability, and this is political education. And for me, that looks like, you know, if I were to get a book for my mom to read, you know, like, this would be the one. This would be a really great way for her to see so many different voices, and be able to, you know, get some of that political education, and have a conversation.
It's not through, I think,
Yeah.
personal stories, which I think
Yeah.
does a little, you know, it's a little bit more not sneaky that way, but I think, you know, the personal is political, and I truly do believe that. And I feel like the power of these individual stories to really highlight, let's say, policy issues or political issues, you know, cultural issues, and they do it in a way that I think is much more approachable to people, rather than some sort of like diatribe or
Yeah.
lecture or some sort of like, you know, we need all kinds of things, but I feel like personal stories are often a wonderful way in for people.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I think of, think back to my school days where I was given a reading, and it was full of huge words and all that, but it, you know, the personal pieces were far more exciting, and hit closer to home for me. um, I also love that you put together this anthology, and I think this happens with a lot of books or anthologies created by folks in the disability community, where this is just the start, and there's resources, and all it takes is maybe one book, and then you have this whole network to explore, and to read more, and like to really, it gives me so much reading material. But I think it's great that, going back to, you know, the idea of like archiving, or giving people resources they might not have had otherwise, and just how even just in the back having the resources to other pieces is really important.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, you know, that was also, I think, my chance to address, like, clearly I would have loved to add a few more people,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't. So I'm like, okay, the least I could do is create a, you know, kind
Yeah.
of like a bibliography. And, you know, the other thing I added that's in the chat box as well is, you know, I thought, okay, this is my first book ever through a major publisher. If this is my one and only chance, I'm gonna go out with a bang. So what can I do to really make the most of this book? So, you know, I hired 2 disabled writers to create free complimentary resources to go with this book. So I commissioned Naomi Ortiz, who has a great book on self-care. She wrote a free discussion guide so that could be used by teachers or like, you know, individual people or book
Mm-hmm.
clubs. So that's on my website. I also, you know, thought a lot about this book, how it could be inaccessible, you know, in terms of language, in terms of cost, because I think cost is still a barrier for a lot of people in the disability community. So I hired Sarah Luterman, who is an autistic reporter and writer, to do a free plain language summary. So that's on my website as well. And, you know, this plain language summary is also, you know, a separate thing. It's not the book, but it's another kind of version of the book is plain language that I do hope, you know, meets the needs of a lot of people in the community. because, you know, we have to face it that a lot of writing is way too dense. It is way too jargony sometimes, and it leaves a lot of people out, with people with cognitive, learning, all kinds of disabilities. So that was kind of my way of just trying to make the most and give a lot of free stuff to go with the book, and hopefully just to use it as a resource.
I love that. Anytime a book comes with extras, I love that. Earlier, Jessica gave a great description of the illustration on the cover, and I think folks are interested to know, how did you decide on the cover, and what's the meaning behind that?
Yeah, so, you know, so like clearly there are limitations to symbols about disability, you know, like we've seen the typical symbols, right? Like this is just, yeah, and thank you, Jessica. So, you know, I really did not want to go there, you know, with that. I was like, like, you know, and, you know, I had to like, I basically shared with the publisher, like, here are the things that are important to me for the cover. It's got to be like joyful, super colorful, super energetic, super just abstract too, because we are not a monolith, right? And also, I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s, and this color scheme is totally my 90s vibe. Like that's,
oh yeah,
that's I'm just vibing the 90s.
Yeah.
I want to just stay in the 90s right now, and I don't care. I don't care. So like, this is my way of sharing, like, you know, my own personal, you know, this is what I like, and you know, if I could, I would put stickers all over it, but you know, we're not allowed to do that. So yeah, so this is more of a just an abstract way of showing just the yeah, let's say diversity of range of disability. And we did have to go through a few iterations until I got to one where I really liked, and I'm just really thankful that the publisher was open to that, because their first few, you know, versions were just like, I was like, it's okay, but I'm not really feeling it yet. And like, you know, that was my nervousness too, that like, if I'm gonna go through all this effort to do a book, I have got to like 1,000% love the cover.
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, I won't feel good about promoting it, and I want it to really be eye-catching. And let's face it, it's great on Instagram. It's very like, it's for the, you know,
Instagram.
For the socials, you know, for all the kids out there, it does catch the eye. And I think it really does achieve all the things I want it to be, but it's very much not prescriptive. Like, it's not like about disability. This is just a fun, hopefully engaging, and welcoming book cover. So shout out to Madeline Parker, who is the artist at Vintage Books, who created the book cover. So shout out to Madeline.
That's awesome. I love the cover. I'm a 90s kid, so I was immediately drawn to it. It's like, I know all those colors, everything I wore in the 90s.
Yes,
Color
yes.
scheme.
Well, aside from neon, because I mean, neon wasn't big as well in the 80s, so we won't go there, but we'll go here. It's all about the rainbows, rainbows.
Awesome. I have one more question, I think, of my questions, and then we've got a bunch of great ones from folks. So part of our reading series this year is we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the ADA. So I'm curious, what futures do you imagine for the community 30 more years down the line?
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking a lot about that, especially this past July. And I wrote a piece. I'll put a link in the chat box. But like,
Yeah, that'd be great.
you know, basically, you know, there's so much work that needs to be done. Like, I think it's every 80th anniversary, you hear a lot of the same things. You know, it's just personally sometimes it's just annoying to personally. You know, we want real talk.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
real talk, right? I mean, but I think we have to continually center disabled people of color because we're not doing that. In the
Definitely.
larger disability rights movement, which is why disability justice is clearly the future in my mind, because it is completely, you know, a cross movement kind of perspective, right? Like you can't just do things in this silo.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would think that's, especially with this year and all of the uprisings and real discussions about abolition, that, you know, we still have people trapped in congregate cities. My vision of the future is a future where nursing homes no longer exist. You know, I want to see a future where everyone can get their needs met in the community with as much support as needed. Right? Like that's liberation to me. That's justice to me. You know, we can get there, but I think it takes a lot more political will, a lot more revolution, you know, a lot more work, and I think, and a lot more kind of imagination, just willingness to take risks, because time and time again people think, isn't this a safer alternative? Right? Like, don't we need these institutions to keep people safe? And if you hear from people who have been incarcerated, they'll tell you that these are not safe places. And they're designed by design. They're not meant to be safe places. And I think this, you know, pertains to prisons, it pertains to asylums, to psychiatric hospitals, assisted living, you know, all of it. So like whenever we think about abolition, we really have to make sure that congregate cities includes all kinds of cities. And I think that's the work, that's the future, that's the dream for me. You know, that's no person, based on their economics, have to be forced to live in a nursing home. We're gonna get there one day, but you know, slowly.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of non-disabled folks have learned a lot the past 6 months, especially looking at the mutual aid that the disability community
Yeah,
has always done for each other, and especially has been highlighted so much the past 6 months. And yeah, you know, but I hope they continue to work with the community and learn from the community, and we'll get there.
and this is also speaking to like the fact that mutual aid has always existed.
Yes.
Like, a little bit sad that like, you know, people are just suddenly aware of it. But the fact that, you know, marginalized communities have always informally done mutual aid, whether it's called mutual aid or not. And the fact that, you know, a lot of communities, they know the state will not save them. And they're not waiting for the state to save them. You know, and I think especially within this political climate, you know, we can't wait. There's no there's no accountability, there's no leadership. Some people are going to be doing it for themselves, for one another. And I think that's really powerful too. That political change can take place voting, but there's other ways as well, as we see with the mobilization of so many people, right? Like it's just people power.
Yeah.
Whether we rely on, the political system or not, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be disenchanted and disillusioned by electoral politics, but
Yeah.
it takes all approaches. That's my opinion.
Yeah. This is making me think a lot about care rationing work that SDA has been working on, and I know that you've written some pretty powerful stuff around care rationing. How have you seen ableism playing out during the past 8 months or so, especially in regards to care rationing?
Well, I definitely feel like people are familiar with systemic medical racism and ableism now. I don't know, like, what planet they're living on, because you can't get more explicit or more eugenic than, no. I mean, this pandemic has really shown people for who they are and institutions for what they represent, right? I mean, we've seen hospitals, health systems, states, the federal government clearly prioritize certain body minds over others. And if people don't see that, I don't know what more evidence you need. I feel like this is one of the things that care rationing is definitely one example. I think the other example is this huge push to return back to normal and restart the economy. Again, capitalism trumps, marginalized people, right? Like that. It's all about the money, it's all about the economy, and, who cares that high risk people are gonna die? Like, this is just like, we're seen as these expendable sacrificial lambs.
Yes.
Like, those people, it's inevitable. Like, these are, it's framed like in a very ageist way, to be honest. I mean, that's, so many people are just older, they live their lives, like, it should be enough, like, as if people don't have worth when they're older. Again, this is a very ageist, capitalist viewpoint. That people are only good based on their productivity. So, that to me has shown a lot about our attitudes and who we really care. And it's very much still based on this not disabled gender ideal, and very much infused with this toxic masculinity, right? Like,
Yeah.
all these attitudes about not wearing a mask is just so riddled with like disgusting masculinity kind of politics, and that to me is just like, so icky, and it is harmful. It harms everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's really dangerous.
Yeah. Well, looking at the time, I'm going to get to some of the questions that folks have asked us. One I have here is from Courtney, who wanted to ask you, do you have any advice for new writers about how to get published? Or if you have any specific advice for disabled writers?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I didn't expect to be somebody who's published. So, like, I thought I didn't start out becoming a professional writer, whatever that means. So, I will say that just from my own experience, I built a platform of sorts for myself. And I think, yeah, despite the dumpster fire that Twitter is, Twitter really did get me out there as a person, with a lot of thoughts, a whole lot of opinions. And I think that's what started it. You know, I became a known thing, and people appreciated what I had to say. Then things kind of snowballed to where then people would say, especially editors, would then message me, say, hey, would you be interested in pitching something? So, you know, if you are a writer, I do think that social media will really get you out there. Whether you're published or not, it is one way to raise your profile, which is really helpful. And also, you can follow editors, you can follow other writers, and really be part of conversations. And that kind of involvement will also help you professionally. So that would be my advice. And, you know, I would say also just keep writing for yourself. You can also self-publish. I think there's so many ways to self-publish now. And I think that's really wonderful too. So don't feel like you have to be published by something else to be legitimate. Like that's also, I think, a real kind of, you know, trick of capitalism. It just, you know, they make you feel like you're less than if you self-publish. So like, you know, as Jessica mentioned, the Resistance and Hope is the first anthology I ever edited. That was in 2018. And I self-published because I didn't think anybody would want to publish it, and I didn't want to wait. And I frankly did not want any interference because I do what I wanted to do. So I self-published it. So I think nowadays there's just a lot of great options for people. So that's my, so just consider that.
That's great. That is all great advice. I also feel you on Twitter sometimes being a dumpster fire, but it can be a great place. Awesome. The next question I have is from Fiona, and the question is, was the order of the essays intentional, and how were the essays chosen?
This is Fiona Heights.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, hey Fiona. Funny story about Fiona, because I met her probably 10 years ago, like just a long time ago, because I think Fiona recently graduated from Stanford after I first met her. And I remember Fiona asking me, like, hey, I want to get involved with the Bay Area disability community. Like, you know, what are some of your suggestions? And I mean, I remember us having a conversation, and then, you know, I kind of pointed her to the various organizations, but it's been really lovely. Personally, as a whole person, seeing Fiona like grow and develop. So, like, hi to Fiona. It's lovely. I'm getting this question from you. So I just wanted to share that story and embarrass Fiona. So
I love it. Shout out to Fiona.
yeah, why not? So, but yeah, so it was, there's a lot of like heavy pieces, there's a lot of lighter pieces. So I wanted there to be balance. This is not like just one heavy piece after the other. But I do think if, you know, people are going to read the whole book, they're going to read anything, they're going to read the first piece, after my introduction, which is by Harriet McBride Johnson. That's very intentional by me to put that the first one.
Mhm.
It is a long read. It is a hard read, but it absolutely captures so many things that I think are part of the disability experience.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many things, and it's funny, it's dark, it's serious, it's just, there's a lot there. So, like, and it really is about ableism. So, if there's anything people read first,
Mhm.
I really do hope it's Harriet's piece. And this was a piece that really also was transformative for me personally. Like, just when I read it, I'm like, oh my God, like, this is amazing. Like, this is just captures a lot of my own life and my own experiences. And then, as I mentioned when I read my introduction, the very last piece by S.E. Smith, who is a reporter and a fantastic writer. So this one is really about the beauty of us, this magic. I mean, here we are talking with this event, like, this is really always so powerful with a bunch of disabled people are together. And that to me is also incredibly uplifting. It just totally leaves the reader on a high note that it's about community, it's about culture. And I think they really book it very nicely because, Harriet is very much a punch to the gut, but it's just like in your face, very just super, super real. And then S.E. Smith is kind of incredibly beautiful and just really just leaves you on this like hopeful note. So I think that to me was really intentional about the first and last piece. The other pieces in the middle, they were done in these four kind of phases, but it's a very gradual kind of, you know, from like individual to more community level stuff. So you see the gradation, and that to me is kind of a nice kind of arc.
I love that. Yeah, it's sort of like, if you were putting together a mixtape, you're thinking about how each piece goes, one after the other. And I love that you've got these two very specific pieces that are the bookends of the book. Here's one from Jessica. All right, we talked about Arts Cafe already. But what do you love most about San Francisco, or where's your favorite spot, whether or not that's Arts Cafe?
Yeah, the downside about Arts Cafe is that, as you mentioned, it is a hole in the wall. So actually, my wheelchair can't get there, but I've always enjoyed my takeout. So there is that. So I think one thing I do love about San Francisco, at least in particular, so many bakeries, so many cafes, coffee, desserts. That gives me joy. Donuts give me joy. Pie gives me joy. I like salty things too, trust me, but I believe like within this pandemic time, we deserve all the cookies. There's nothing better and more, like seconds, thirds. We deserve all the treats, whatever your idea of a treat is. But yeah, I mean, like clearly this is what we need and deserve. So for cookies, I love Anthony's cookies, which is in the Mission
Oh yeah.
of Alicia. They are top-notch cookies, baked fresh every day. Yes, a little pricey, but it's about quality, okay? My favorite is,
yourself.
yeah, I mean, this is like, yeah, you gotta, whip it up. So toffee chip cookies by Anthony's. By recommendation, my favorite ice cream place is at the dog patch. A place called Mr. and Mrs. Mr. and Mrs. Miscellaneous. Talk about a wordful, but it's absolutely the best ice cream. Super premium. Buy rights okay, but Mr. and Mrs. is truly where it's at. And for me, my favorite there is their chicory coffee ice cream.
Oh.
So go for that. Have an extra scoop. Have a little sprinkles. For me, like, everything's better with whipped cream. So, like,
Oh yeah.
whipped cream on coffee, whipped cream on pie, whipped cream on ice cream. Just go for it.
All of it.
Just go for it. Oh, I'm so hungry now. But anyway, yeah, so there's that. So, yeah.
I love that. I agree with you. I think that everyone deserves treats right now. I've been making homemade brownies almost every week and eating them the whole pan to myself. So you gotta do it.
Yeah, you gotta do it. You have to do it.
Awesome. I got a question from Gray. Who's your favorite disabled writer?
Oh, Dad, I can't answer that. How dare you, Gray? How dare you?
Those are the questions that always get us, right? When someone's like, just one.
Yeah, I see what you're doing, Gray. And I'm going to fall for it. I see you a mile away. I see what you did there. So, yeah, so I think you should just consider everyone in the book to be my favorite writers. And there's a lot more, but just check my website. You'll also see people that I retweet on Twitter, just people that I admire as well, just not just writers, but activists and all kinds of creative people. So that's all I'm gonna say.
All right. Well, I'll get to a different question. One that came from Jennifer is, do you have plans right now to edit a sequel to this anthology? Especially, you were only able to have 37 pieces, and it sounded like you had more than that to choose from.
I did, and I do have plans, but they're super secret plans.
We won't pry.
I can't reveal that now, but you all will be the first to know. Later on, I have these. I literally last week have something in the works. So this is a very timely question. It cannot be answered because I don't want to jinx anything. But these are in the works. If you just imagine me as a witch stirring this cauldron of disability culture, I'm just turning this cauldron with a black cat right next to me. This is my spooky Halloween, vision. I'm conjuring the powers that be to answer. So, so these are in the works. I can't say there's one thing that's exciting. This is news. I didn't mention this publicly yet. But what the hell? Because it is going to happen. So, there's going to be a young reader's version of Disability Visibility. It's coming out next fall by Delacorte Press, which is part of this larger publishing company that's part of Vintage Books. So apparently this book has made a splash, and there's been requests for, something for children readers.
That's amazing.
So that's definitely happening. So the fact that it'll reach school age people, middle school, high school kids, I mean, that's pretty awesome. I just wrote a brand new introduction just a week ago
Wow.
for this version that'll be out fall 2021. But yeah, this introduction is geared for the kids, which is completely different, but
Yeah.
hopefully funny and useful as well. So that's something to look forward to.
I love it. Yeah, we're getting the news before everyone else. It's exclusive.
Hot tea, hot tea.
I love that. I also love this image of you as a witch over a cauldron. I think someone asked for that to be a t-shirt. I want to second that. I think that would be great. I think we have a few more minutes before I think Peter has a few announcements, but I think that this is a great question. It's a question I'm asking myself all the time. What do you do to relax and keep yourself going during these hard times? Sounds like treats.
Yeah, so treats, number one, I start my day with a coffee, something with peanut butter for protein, quote unquote protein, the nutrients. And
You gotta get that protein in first thing in the morning.
Nutrients. So there's that. Then there's a treat. So like coffee, peanut butter, treat. So that is how I start my day actually, pretty much. And then, I would say cat videos.
Oh yeah.
Cat videos. Yeah, just silly things. I watch a lot of TV. I watch all kinds of very escapist TV.
Any recommendations on TV shows we need to be watching?
Or, some of them are very dark. Some of them are just, yeah. So, there's just a lot there. For anybody that likes animation, so on Netflix, there is a cartoon character called Agretsuko, Agretsuko. She is a character that just is full of rage.
A metal cartoon cat, right?
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I think she's a cat or a red panda, something like that. But she is my role model. Just unleashing rage, just like rage against patriarchy, rage against capitalism. She really is a role model. So I just said, just check it out.
We could all wish to be more like her.
We all gotta thrash and just let it all out. Just yeah. So so there's that.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more question. This one is more, I think this is just a great clarification for some folks who might not know. What does it mean to have a plain language version of your book? You mentioned earlier you have a plain language version. So I think some folks were curious what that meant.
Yeah, so there's a really good explanation by Sarah in the actual plain language summary, but there is,
perfect.
But I think, just to paraphrase, I think, there are different ways of making writing much more clear and shorter sentences that really convey the same ideas as existing work. So it's really about making sure that all kinds of readers can get the same ideas and sentiments expressed by the existing work. So Sarah goes into some detail about kind of techniques she uses. And, you know, each person that does play language summaries has their own methods, but, you know, it's a lot about changing the sentence structure,
Mhm.
you know, maybe re, reorganizing things and just doing them in a much more direct and clear way.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't call it like a simple version, but it is in many ways much more kind of shorter, direct, and you're not going to get the exact same. It's not meant to be a facsimile of the existing work. It's actually, you know, an interpretation of the work. So it's not going to get word for word translation,
Yeah.
but it is something different, and it just offers another way to appreciate that work.
Yeah.
So I probably am not the best person to describe my language, but you know, I love to the experts. So if you do get a chance, check out the
Mhm.
Play Language Summary. I think somebody put the link
Yeah.
to the chat, but there is an introduction where the author does lay it out. So that's a far
Yep.
better job than I did.
we'll definitely link that. All right, I'm gonna ask one last question, and that is, what is your song of the month?
So I've been really getting really old school,
Mm-hmm.
like super old. To be honest, like there are a lot of songs now that I'm just like, who are these people? I do not know like any of these folks, but you know, like every once in a while, there is a bop that is just, I just love so much. And I would have to say, my tune of the month is Dynamite by BTS. And
Ooh.
let me play a little bit.
Oh yeah, please.
So watch me bring the fire, set the night light. Shoes on, get up in the morning, cup of milk, let's rock and roll. Kink out, get the drum rolling on like a rolling stone. Sing song when I'm walking home, jump up to the top of the brown. Ding dong, call me on my phone, nice tea, and I'll get my ping pong. This is heavy. Okay, that's it. That's a little.
That's enough to make me want to look up the song. So I think you knew what you were doing.
It's a bop. It's a bop,
Yeah.
and just like you say, it's a
I
banger.
love that.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, truly, like I don't buy a lot of new music, but this is pretty decent. BTS Dynamite.
Every once in a while, they get you, and that's okay. You gotta have that one song.
Well, I do think because they're retro, so you could just tell they went with a disco R&B kind of vibe. That's how they got me.
Yeah.
So everything old is new again, and I love it.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for letting me ask you so many questions. And I am so glad that we share the same love for treats and Arts Cafe. And I think that Jessica is going to speak a little bit about SDA and help us wrap up. And I think we're still raffling a book.
Yeah, and thanks a lot for like having me. I did not expect to play BTS, but hey.
That was my goal, actually. That was the goal for this whole reading.
Hey, book event / dance party. Why the hell not? I mean, whatever. Just like, it's Sunday. What else?
You have to. It's Sunday.
Yeah, what else? You know?
Exactly. I was just going to say, don't go away, folks, because we'll give information about how to get the book and we'll do the raffle. And we usually have some casual time near the end, which apparently is a dance party. And we already know the first song. So, so if you can, you know, show your video, we'd love to see each other. So huge thank you to Alice for being here and sharing about your book and a little how you think about life and what keeps you going. You know, one of the things that I love most about Alice is the way she has really figured out how arts and activism can support each other, right? And that they're not these two separate pieces, but that they have everything to do with each other. And especially right now when things are hard, it feels like, you know, doing activism, we really need art to make sense of life and to keep us going. And that art can really help change the world, right? So so on that note, I just wanted to remind people again about a few opportunities to get involved with SDA. There was something in the chat about if you're not local, can you get involved? I want to say absolutely, especially during the pandemic when everything we do is online. A lot of it is focused on the Bay Area, but a lot of it is also much broader. One of the things we're looking at now is making sure that people in nursing homes and institutions and care facilities can vote, because there's a huge risk of that not happening for a bunch of reasons that I won't get into right now. And so we are focused on the Bay Area, but we're gonna do a national teach-in about what people can do in their own areas. I also realize there's people here from other countries. I guess that one doesn't apply, but you may also have a stake in our election. So that's one thing. If you email me, jessica@sdaction.org or info@sdaction.org, we can definitely let you know how to get involved. And please become a member, right? We're a member-run organization. We're building a movement of disabled people and seniors. Being a member means filling out a form, letting us know what you want to hear about, what you want to get involved in, and paying dues of whatever amount works for you. And that information is on the website as well. And I posted a link about a letter to Kaiser about care rationing. And again, you may or may not know Kaiser, they may not be in your area, but that's a big hospital system that we're using as kind of an example of how we need hospitals to be proactive about saying they're not going to discriminate and showing us what that looks like in writing. So we have 67, we had 67 letters at the beginning of the call. I would love us to get to 75 or something by the end. It's something you can do online in about a minute. So Peter will either post that link again or I will when I stop talking. So please do that now. And I think that's it. I should stop talking, right, Peter? Did I forget anything? Okay, thanks.
That was great. Thanks, Jessica. And I am just pulling up a couple of things. I'm getting ready for the raffle, and I'm going to paste some information in the chat about how you can get your own copy of the book if you are not the lucky winner of the raffle. One of you will be that lucky winner. Very exciting times. So I'm sharing the resources for how to get the book. You can get it directly from Penguin Random House. You can get it on bookshare.org, or you can find the free plain language version of Alice's book on disabilityvisibilityproject.com. Again, posting that in the chat. We'll include them in our follow-up. Please also stay tuned for our next reading. We are in the midst of planning a few more and very excited for them. So keep posted. There's a link where you can always see the new ones that are coming along. All right, so time for the raffle. Everyone, let that suspense build. Let that suspense build. All right, here we go. And the winner of the raffle Caitlin Creeley. Congratulations. Woo. So Caitlin will follow up with you directly and we can grab an email from you and we'll get you a copy of your book. Congratulations. I would be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to thank everyone who made this happen. So I'm going to take that opportunity right now big thank you, obviously, to Alice. Alice, thank you for making this so easy. We were just plugging in and playing. It was awesome. You have everything ready to go. So thank you so much.
I'm
Kristen.
so sorry to interrupt. Caitlin says, I already have a copy. Can we share with someone else?
Oh, we can absolutely do that. Yeah.
Caitlin.
Thanks, Caitlin, for speaking up and letting us know. We can redo that raffle in just a second. But to say thank you, Kristen, Kate, Jessica, everyone else who made this happen. Really awesome, and so glad to be a part of this with you all. All right, redoing the raffle. Here we go.
Lots of people are saying they have copies, so we'll see what we get.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a good problem to have, I think. All right. Alejandrina Guzman, do you have a copy?
Wow, I don't.
Hey! All right.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Right on.
oh goodness.
Oh, yay. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna chat you and we'll get a copy of the book on its way to you. And I also would be really remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to play. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. It was cute on the last song. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I think this begins our dance party. Alejandrina, I'm going to chat you right now. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye, everyone.
We can also take music requests after this one.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
You too.
Now do that. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Forgot it was in the advanced settings.
So everybody who's still on, we can chat, right? During
Yeah.
the music? Where are you all from and how'd you hear about this?
I am from Memphis, Tennessee. My name is Jennifer Murchison, and I'm going to start my video so y'all can see.
Yeah.
Hi. So I got the book this summer, and immediately after I read the first, I think it was 3 essays, I said, I got to figure out a way to incorporate this into a class that I teach. I teach an honors form course for freshmen, or fresh people, and it was one of the best changes I made to the syllabus at the last minute. I have them read at least 1 essay each week, but some of the past couple of weeks they've had to read either entire parts or pick 4 essays from another part. And it has just changed their perceptions completely in a good way. And it's been a really effective learning tool for them. So much so that I actually got my colleagues to agree to do a book club this month. So I work in disability resources for students at the University of Memphis, and we'll be leading a discussion of about 12 staff members each week. And then next spring, we are going to open it up to the campus, focusing with faculty so that we can hopefully change some of the culture on campus about accessibility and universal design concepts and stuff like that. So I'm very excited about introducing more people to this book.
Alejandrina, where are you from?
Down in Texas, Fort Worth area, but I'm based in Austin. Of all the events y'all host, I might be familiar because of all the events I've been to, but this is awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for doing these events.
We're so glad to have the opportunity to do them, and so glad that you've come to a handful of them. I did recognize your name. I was like, oh, yeah.
There's some exciting disability activism in Texas that I keep hearing about.
There's so much going on. Yes. What have you been hearing? That's awesome.
Well, I know Emily Walensky, and now I can't remember what it was. There was a picture of like a socially distanced protest. I think it was about care rationing.
I
Does
know.
that sound familiar?
I'm a member of Adaptive Texas, and I know Adapt has been doing a lot of protest for home and community services. Had a big native protest on Friday, so that may have been a recent thing you heard, but yeah, lots of stuff going on.